Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I am Tamara Johnson. Shealey, good morning. It is Saturday, November 14th. Oh my gosh, this year is so flying by. Let me see where my trusty co host is. There he is. Good
Hey,
morning, David.
morning, Tamara.
How
uh,
are you?
I'm doing okay.
It's
I just
Saturday.
heard a new expression. Somebody told me, "How are you?" And you say, "I'm hanging in there like a loose tooth." Now, I just heard another one, which is, "I'm hanging in there like a hair in a biscuit."
Oh
So
Lord.
that's
Not a hair and a biscuit, David. Ugh.
yeah, I know.
Awesome.
Yeah, this is I think North Georgia rural, um, expressions from what I gather. Anyway, no, I'm doing okay. Somewhat relieved by the election, somewhat disappointed. Um, uh, Thinking a lot of things through about what this all means, and uh,
What it means, David.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's and our discussions are you know um, getting me thinking on on a lot of issues where we're disagreeing, but not disagreeable. Hey,
Yeah. Good
oh,
morning, everybody. Thank you guys for chiming in this morning. Yeah, David, you know what? I feel my body's is now trying to settle, and every day I wake up I'm still tired, but I know this, this is my fourth run. I know that it takes me like quite a while to really get back to some sense of normalcy, but I'm feeling really good. I keep looking at my numbers, try not to check them too much, but I'm at 106,654 votes. So 106,654. So I feel really good. I see Luann
yeah,
clapping in the background. I feel really good about coming in sixth place thus far, knowing that money won. It wasn't that I didn't have a message. It wasn't
yeah,
that I wasn't a good candidate. It's money and being able to buy the media, buy and literally, and that's the truth, buy media, send mailers. That stuff is extremely pricey.
yeah,
It wasn't that I didn't have a message, so I don't feel like my loss was a loss in the bigger scheme of things because money won. Leffler had millions, Warnock had millions, um, Collins had millions. Those were in the top three. And then the fourth place person, Deborah Jackson, was the first Democrat woman on the ballot, and placement on that ballot does
yeah,
matter.
yeah,
She raised less money than I did. I saw her less out here on the campaign trail. So she came in fourth. Fifth place was Matt Lieberman, and I anticipated that he would place. So, he's right above me. And then there's me. Like I say, so I feel very accomplished that there was a message that resonated with a lot of people. If I had I can tell you, David, along the way, when I, would talk about my campaign after early voting had started, people would say, I had people to apologize to me for voting for other people. And it was like, well, I just didn't know. And I said, I know. I didn't have the money to
yeah.
make sure you knew who I was. So that was what won. Um, I'm
Well,
watching this runoff between Ossoff and Purdue and Leffler and Warnock. And people are asking me, well, Tamara, are you going to support Warnock? And my answer to that is Warnock going to carry reparations? Is he going to add that to his agenda? Damn, is that really a hard ask for the pastor? Is that
yeah,
really a hard ask for somebody standing in the shoes of Dr. King to have a specific Black agenda? Go ask him if he going to carry this agenda. Sure, I'll support him if he carries this agenda. This is about the people. So I have a problem with that, David. I know that's where you disagree with me. Go ahead. But I wanted to
no,
start out this morning.
no, I disagree with you only to the. I mean, I'm confused. To tell you the truth, I mean, I'm torn. in different directions. I mean, I think it would be crucial to have control of the or crucial. It would be better to have control of the Senate in the hands of the Democrats, I think, than with McConnell, running the show, and that has ripple effects. I mean, the chairs of committees in the Senate are
I
really,
get that. I get that in the bigger scheme of things, and I get it and I appreciate it. But when Black people just saved this entire nation, this entire nation, when does it stop? When does it stop? When does it stop? When does America say, okay, how do we help you? How do we remedy the issues that are plaguing your community?
Yeah. All right.
You
Well,
want us to continue to go to the polls and vote you in with nothing specific for us after we keep saving you? When does it stop? When does it stop?
Yeah, and that really tears at me, and what I've said to you is that this is really on the white progressive Democrats. They have a responsibility. There's a lot of promissory notes out there to the ADOS community. That, as Martin Luther King called it, back in 1963. But one of them, besides the one of the, whole society, is the progressives whose special responsibility is to reach out and find ways to connect with working people who are European American, who are really in a conflicted situation between their race, they're being part of this white race social control system, and their working class interests. They're just not being, the progressive left is not addressing those issues effectively enough to win. I mean, the estimates are that 40% of union voters voted for Trump in 2016, and maybe approximately the same number in 2020. And part of that has to do with the way unions are structured to be business unions rather than political entities. So there's a lot of that. I think that it was more than money that operates here throughout the political system. There's networks, and institutional frameworks that groom people for these positions. Ossoff has been groomed. Warnock has been groomed. These are people who are.
He has been anointed.
Well,
Warnock has been anointed.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying when I say that people there are these what do you call it, networks and interconnections within the Democratic establishment, that relationships that are built, and face it, Tamara, you don't play ball with these people, and so
I don't.
So when
and I'm proud of that, David.
Huh?
I don't play ball with them, and I'm proud of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is that I mean, I've been an outsider, all my life. So I'm very aware of and it's lonely and it's scary, and there's
because we found each other, David. There's a lot of us that are outside of these political parties. We're gonna bring Luann Taylor in just a little while. Yeah. We're outside of these political parties, and we don't want to play the game. We just want the system to work for everybody. Yeah, we just want the system to work. We don't want to play the game. So I'm sure when she comes in, she'll dive into that.
Yeah. Luann's good people.
Yes.
All right. Well, but that's really where we're at, and my special responsibility is to keep, on shouting out to these progressives to
do the right thing.
do their job. This is, this is what they're this is what we're paying them for. We're not paying them, but this is where, and asking those questions about how do we reach out to European American folks who are locked into this, into their own networks.
Well, David, you talk about that all the time. It's like, how do white people get past being white and realize that we have to work in solidarity with each other against these systems that are harming all of us?
Yeah. Well, I'm open for volunteers. Making a revolution ain't crowded. As my old mentor Ted Allen used to say. Making a revolution ain't crowded. If you want to get together, I'm ready and willing. So, and I think we have to look at out of the box places for that impulse to come from. There are people who are going to be aware and being aware of the downside of thinking and acting white that are going to come from a lot of different places, have less unlearning to do than a lot of folks who are embedded in progressive movements and left politics, who keep on shutting down the issue of investigating how this white race system hurts working class European Americans. If they're not looking for it, they're never going to find it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I've been working hard to come up with these hidden to anybody with a blind spot, with a white blind spot, these hidden costs of the system. I mean, every working class European American who votes for the Republican establishment is voting to shut down, to block Medicaid expansion, and to maintain low wages and all. And
I don't think they realize that these corporations don't, the Republicans and corporate America, they don't want Medicare for all. They don't want us to not be dependent on them. They want us to have to come to work and depend on them. If you get sick, you depend on them to take care of you, instead of having this system outside of them that no matter what happens, you can still see a doctor. You can still have preventative treatment.
There is a sense in which the whole system of exploitation, i.e. capitalism, works on two levels. One is that the pretend level, which is that workers and capitalists are free to hire or fire, to take a job or to leave a job. And then there's the other level, which is the force and coercion and creating a system of desperation for the working people, and precariousness. There's this new word, the precarious proletariat, the precariat. And I've been part of that for decades, as a out of tenure stream, professor. I don't know from one semester to the next whether I get whether I have a job or not, and I get paid.
But if we had Medicare for all, you wouldn't, whether or not you had this income, you could, if something happened in the interim, you could still go see the doctor.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the point, that the whole idea of Medicare for all creates an independence for working class people. In other words, if you're a citizen of the United States, you have a right to health coverage, and the only people that hurts are the big insurance companies. I mean, people don't get it. They talk about socialism and all of the
Let's bring
That's a
let's
threat.
bring Luann in. Let's bring Luann, and I was going to bring her in just a few minutes, but I'm excited to have her. Let's bring her in. Good
Hi.
morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
You were chiming on that Medicare for all. Go ahead, Luann.
Hi. I'm all for Medicare for all. What I want to see, because Medicare for all does freak so many people out, I would like to see a Medicare for all option on healthcare.gov. And then my tax credit, or all of our tax credits, instead of going to a for-profit insurance company, would simply go to Medicare, which I think is
Wow.
eventually going to become a moral issue. We are sick of for-profit healthcare system. So that's my Medicare for all
Oh, that's a
speech.
brilliant idea. No, that's really,
Mm.
man, that's really, you should, we got to get you in touch with the,
I tell them all the time. Well,
yeah,
the other issue is you don't have to do it. If you're so,
absolutely.
against it for
Yeah,
whatever issues,
it's
then you just
wonderful.
go with a for-profit company. But those
Yeah,
of us who are no longer interested in for-profit healthcare, we want the option of Medicare for all. And again, as someone like me, they're going to make money.
yeah,
I rarely go to a doctor. So what's going to happen, when if I have an $800 a month health insurance premium, I'm not going to pay it. I don't use it enough. But
yeah.
if the excess goes to Medicare if the excess tax credit goes to Medicare, then it just goes right back in the system.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's a great idea. It's a great idea.
Mhm.
Oh, well,
Mhm.
only they would listen. Well,
They're
Well,
anyway,
listening.
congratulations to you, Tamara.
Thank
We
you.
are just impressed more every day as these numbers come in.
Mhm.
106,000 votes, that is nothing to sneeze at. And I would think that Mr. Warnock would want those votes.
yeah,
Where does
I
he
think
think those
too.
106,000 votes are going to go, if not to him? Which honestly, most likely they will go to him. He's, we're in such a polar
Well,
problem with candidates right now. It's just like one extreme, to the other. Although I don't think Mr. Warnock is that extreme, but certainly Kelly Loeffler is extreme. So,
we're not running back to the polls. That's what I think people don't understand. Getting people back to the polls
yeah,
after these presidential, this was historical. These numbers, the number of people that actually voted in Georgia, I mean, historical. We're not running back to the polls, and we're not afraid of not having these two seats. The fear was Trump. The fear is not having these two seats. So Warnock needs to get this right with Black America. He has to get this right. And to add this to his agenda is not a hard ask, Mr. Pastor. It's not. So
I would agree.
Let up on him on this. I mean, I will fully support him, but he has to carry this agenda. He has to carry it.
Well, keep talking, because people were listening to you for sure.
Yeah.
Now, we had, as far as independent candidates go, we ended up with only two really that made the ballot. Now, in 2018, we had three that collected enough signatures, and only one made the ballot. So in 2020, we had, once again, three that made enough, that collected enough signatures, but two made it on the ballot. So I guess we, doubled our chances, which is pretty good. And of course, one of our really a success story for America is Brunswick, Georgia. The Brunswick County DA wasn't Brunswick County, Brunswick District DA, Keith Higgins.
yeah.
Now, he ran as an independent in a pandemic. He had to collect, he had to collect about 5,000 signatures. He collected 8,800 signatures in Brunswick just to get on the ballot. And then when it was all over, he received 45,000 to the incumbent's 20,000.
Wow.
Now, I know. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with Brunswick, you might remember Ahmaud Arbery. Ahmaud Arbery was the young man that basically was shot while jogging, and the current DA, Jackie Johnson, just never charged anybody. It was a big mess, but it wasn't even the first big mess in that district. And I'm just amazed that the people of Brunswick, really the people of Georgia, should all be very proud. But Brunswick, this just happened in January. In January, they said, enough is enough. We are sick of this. And, meticulously went through the process, and they got rid of their DA that had been there for a decade, appointed too.
Yeah.
So this makes a difference when you're elected by the people.
Absolutely.
So congratulations to him. And we'll have a new voice down there. That's amazing.
It is.
Great.
But the real voice was, again, the people of Brunswick. They said, we have had enough of this, and boom, 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 got it done. I'm hoping that there'll be a made-for-TV movie about the whole race someday. We need a Hallmark film about this one.
Well, that whole situation down there, I mean, this is big news, because the whole district attorney's office and the police in that whole area have have a long history, don't they, Luann?
They do. This is not the first bad problem. Shoot, unfortunately, I can't remember the first case's name, but basically it was a young woman in a vehicle that, it was one of those cases where they feared for their life, but she was in a car coming at them in a parking lot, and basically, they just kind of shot up the car. I think it was like, 13, 14 shots into a vehicle and killed this woman, which is basically, I believe, when Keith Higgins resigned as an assistant DA, which this was years ago now, maybe 4 years ago. And here we are. It happened again with Ahmaud Arbery, and Brunswick just absolutely knocked it out of the park. So,
well, the other thing is, Luann, the several counties around Brunswick seem to have switched from Republican to Democrat in the presidential election. Yeah, there are a lot of counties around Savannah. So in other words, not just the Atlanta counties, but Southwest Georgia, where Albany, Georgia is, and where Tamara did some good bit of campaigning. Those areas are now, it's not just a sea of red and then all blue Atlanta. There are now Savannah, Brunswick, and Southwest and Albany are centers of where people are shifting their political affiliation, at least at the presidential level. So
let's stay there, David, because I don't think Georgia is blue. I think that we're still purple or more red, but I don't think we're blue yet. I think people were just so over Donald Trump that they were going to vote him out, and that was Democrats and Republicans. So.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, in Georgia, we don't register as a party. So you can't go to the Secretary of State's website and say how many Democrats, how many Republicans, how many independents, because they don't require that of us. When you talk to people, even the people that were running for office, you'll often hear them say, well, I'm really an independent. But, to get on the ballot in Georgia, you have to pick a party. Basically there's really only two parties that you can pick. So we do have the capacity to change our minds, a little easier than some states. So, for instance, if you're registered as a Democrat in Texas, you can only vote in the Democratic primary. In Georgia, we have the option of voting in whichever primary we choose. Of course, you can only vote in one, but that still gives us a little more freedom. And I think in the long run, it's going to make us a little more independent. Eventually, I have no doubt that once independents and minor parties can start making the ballot, we're going to see how many there really are. Nationwide, independents now outnumber Republicans. We do not outnumber Democrats. In fact, I was reading Democrats are basically about 43% of the country. Republicans are about 28%, and independents are now at 29%. So that's a big deal, because a decade ago, there was a 10-point spread between independents and any party. So people are catching on. Americans don't like being told we have to join a party. And we'll see what happens in the long run, but it's very exciting, really. I've also asked a question of every candidate that ran for the state races, the Senate and the House. And I basically was just asking them, what they would do to help with ballot access. If we can do simple things like remove some of the notary process that can be so expensive. For instance, Keith Higgins in Brunswick, he had a 712-page petition by the time it was over. 712 pages. And excuse me, if he had to pay for a notary, that would have been $4 a page. So that got real expensive real fast. And of course, we have no choice but to follow the law. And, it can be really expensive. So that's one thing we hope to remove. And I asked each candidate about that, but I also asked about ranked choice voting. Ranked choice voting is exciting to people. They want to know more about it. I've always said, once you start talking about ballot access with independents, the legislators, sometimes their eyes just kind of glaze over. But when you bring up ranked choice voting, they're interested. In fact, I heard from 2 incumbents that say they have a bill ready to go. So that will be very exciting in 2021 to push a ranked choice voting bill, even a ballot measure, which I believe is going to take some signatures, but I'll be happy to jump on that train and see what we can do about that.
Explain for those that may not quite understand ranked choice voting. Give a little explanation, please.
Well, ranked choice voting is where your race being a primo example, 21 candidates, instead of having to, instead of having to choose one and, it's one or nothing, then we would basically come down the list and rank the candidates. So in your case, you'd be able to say, and I know there were people that wanted to vote for you, even though you got a ton, but if they go, if I vote for Tamara, then Loeffler's going to win, or, the other extreme candidate is going to win. They feel like they're throwing their vote away. So it's kind of left independents feeling unrepresented. I've never in my life had the opportunity to vote for an independent. Well, the Senate race would be the one time where we did have the chance, a special election. At any rate, though, with ranked choice voting, you basically would rank everybody. So you'd go, Tamara, Warnock, pick your 4 candidates and just boom, boom, boom. And then the electors will, first of all, they add up everybody's number 1 choice. If anyone has 50%, then they win. It doesn't even go into play. But if they don't, then they take the lowest voters and they remove them, the lowest candidates, and they remove them from the process, and then they count the number 2 candidates
from from the voters who had voted for those people for number 1.
Right.
They let the votes go to their number 2 choice.
Right.
Yeah.
So the very lowest people, then they go to their number 2 choice, which generally, might be one of the, big party candidates, but it gives people the opportunity to vote for the little guy, make them feel, none of us, we resent, Americans resent having no choice but to vote for, a Republican or a Democrat because we feel like we're going to, waste our vote, as they say. It doesn't even come into play in state races because in Georgia, we only had 1 race with 3 candidates. We're lucky to have 2 candidates in Georgia. It was District 129 had 1 independent on the ballot. So it had a Republican, a Democrat, and an independent. And of course, sadly, the independent did very poorly in that race. But again, with ranked choice voting, people, they're just scared. We tend to have 2 extremes on the ballot, and you have to pick your extreme, and we're tired of that. Most of us aren't extreme. We're very moderate, and we have different ideas. What am I hearing? At any rate, ranked choice voting, it's a little hard to explain without some charts, but it's very popular, and it really tends to level the playing field a little bit. Instead of the extreme, we'll be able to sort of, come to a more moderate decision with our representatives.
Well, I would only, reply to that, push back a little on that, is that I wouldn't frame it in terms of extremes. The way that I would frame it is that you've got a duopoly that exists. And in Georgia, the duopoly has been that the Democrats have created a modus vivendi. They live with the Republicans as a minority party, and that's the way it's been for 25 years. But each of the 2 major parties has a network, a system in place of grooming people, of creating money, of acquiring donations, and it is almost impossible for anybody who is independent to get their ideas heard. So you have a suppression of ideas that's going on for some of the reasons that you're saying, and so what you have are these 2 establishments, these 2 power centers that don't allow anyone in without this process of vetting and making sure that that the people are going to toe the line, that the new candidates or the up and coming people are going to toe the line, are going to so there really is no place for independent voices. And what that means is that, for the most part, is that working people don't get heard. So I really think that it's more than just simply, independents are in the middle, between 2 extremes. I think it's a matter of getting representation for people who are actually, ordinary working people who, we have taxes on food in Georgia. Taxes on food. When I came down here and I saw that, it's outrageous that people are paying taxes on food. There is nothing more regressive than a tax on food. So there are lots of things like that are why is that the way that they're raising revenue in Georgia? So those,
Let's say good morning to Carl real quick, David. Good morning, Carl. Welcome to the
and
broadcast.
I'm stepping on Carl's turf now. So why do
Luann, can
they
you
have
hang
past
out with
food here in Georgia? Do they have it in South Carolina too?
Wait, I can't hear him. There you go.
Can't hear you.
We can hear you now, Carl.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Okay. Yeah, no, I believe food is taxed here. Maybe not. I don't actually pay attention to that on the tax line there on the bill.
Yeah. Well, welcome. Let's introduce yourself, Carl, Mr. Bottom Up Economics. You've been with us in and out of the broadcast. Luann, you going to stick around with us, or can you have to head out?
Oh, no, well, I'll stick around and listen. You can go ahead and take me off if you want to. But let me just tell you, congratulations again. And I am just amazingly impressed. I'm impressed with the whole state. We should all be very pleased right now. I know it wasn't quite the blue wave, that they talk about. Of course, I would prefer, a rainbow type wave anyway. But I'm very proud of you, and you should be very proud of yourself. So thank you and goodbye.
Thank you, Luann. We hope to see you soon. I know
Okay.
when the session starts, you'll have a lot to fill us in on.
Yes, that's right. 2021, including redistricting of our, the redistricting committee, which I am determined to get some independence on.
Mm-hmm.
But that'll be my battle in 2021. I wish it would be you, but you're not an independent. You see, we're working on you.
They don't understand that yet. We're going to keep working together, Luann.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good morning. Mr. Carl, Mr. South Carolina, y'all had a Jamie Harrison and what's his name?
Well, we had Joe Cunningham, and then we had Adair. So we had several candidates, and unfortunately, they all lost. But they're not really selling those independents and those more moderate Republicans and bringing them over to our side as of yet. But hopefully, there's an opportunity to maybe they'll see how badly we got shellacked and the party people, and then say, okay, we can't just get out the vote. We can't just register more voters and stuff. We've got to have a more a message that resonates with or messages, not that we have to stop, messaging on morality, but we also need to message on the economics. So, and that'll bring the business people over and a lot more to the people to, okay, it's not taking money away from one person to help somebody else. It's investing in people so that it pays back and it grows the economy. And then there's, it works out for everybody, but, we can get into the details of that. But anyway.
Yeah, you've always said, and I would totally agree with you, there's a messaging problem. The Democrats have a messaging problem. And right. I can tell you because when I traveled the state on this campaign trail and I talked about reparations, that message resonated. I know I said to David, and I said a little while ago, that I had people to apologize to me that they didn't know who I was and they voted for somebody else. They just didn't know. And that if the message gets out there, this party can really turn, but the party has to embrace the messaging.
Right.
I think
we have to
internally. Yeah.
We have to sell our message. If it's being called liberal or whatever, we have to show that that's actually not that, that it's not a crazy idea. These are things that will that do pay back. Tax cuts for the rich, that should sound like some wacko idea. We need to make that sound pretty wacko, because it really is. A business, if they have more money, they don't invest and hire people. When they have more money, they invest and hire when they have more customers with more money. The Republicans kind of have a little bit of the right idea in terms of let's get more money to people that create the jobs. Let's grow that, expand that economy, and then these investments are what we do. And in their terms, the tax cuts will pay for itself, because the larger economy creates more tax revenues. The problem is they have the cart before the horse, and And it's not that the rich and the big businesses, lead in that. They're actually pretty risk adverse. They don't want to lose their money. And if you have some money, you don't want to lose it. It kind of sucks to have not much money and all that. But when people have more money, when we raise the minimum wage, when we invest in people's education and health, and we invest in infrastructure and research and safe community development and so on, our safety nets, all of these things put money in the bottom of the economy. People have more money to go out and spend. Guess what businesses want? More customers, more money, and that helps businesses. So it's not socialism. It's enabling capitalism to work for everybody. And instead
what about this competitive component to capitalism, where people want to compete, where you have a winner and a loser? That's the part of capitalism that the game I feel like we're playing as a nation. We're the losers, and rich people are continuing to win.
Right. And that's where rigged capitalism, creates that. But when you're investing in what actually does pay off, instead of trickle down or putting money tax cuts for the rich, which does not pay off for the reasons I just said. But if you invest in somebody's education, then they make far more money over their lifetime, which means that they're a better customer, for businesses. They have more money. They have everybody has lots of needs and so on, especially the poor and the people that are struggling and so on. So if they have money, then they actually have the ability to go out and buy. So that farmer does better, and that farmer is going to plant more. He's going to grow more crops when he knows he or she knows they have more customers with money. So that's what gets the thing, going, is these investments in opportunities for our people, not just, these aren't wacky ideas. It's not socialism when we educate people. It's not socialism when we get healthcare for people. Guess what businesses need? Healthy and educated people. Is that socialism, or is that an enabling capitalism? Well, I've lost. Go ahead,
Carl. I understand the logic that it's a very strong case that you're making. It's certainly the whole idea behind Keynesian economics. But the problem with it is, I think, from my perspective, as having been a blue collar worker and now, for years as an out of tenure stream academic, is that this system works on two levels. One is, the pretense of freedom. This is what I was saying before, the pretense that everybody's free to choose their job and go where they want and all of this other stuff. And then there's the other level, which is coercion, economic terrorism, to get people to work. So there's a social control factor that is part of what this system does. I mean, propertyless people who don't have capital, are thrown into a situation in which there are people who have power over them, and right. And the countervailing power to the folks who are in control of capital, and also with a system that protects their private property, which is different from personal property. This is not about protecting your home. This is about protecting a system of exploitation, so that you can use your capital, your money, to extract profit from the people who are working for you.
Right. Well, and that goes back. Century, millennia, whatever.
All that I'm saying is that there's really only one way to counteract the power of capital, and that is mobilization, organization, strikes, street demonstrations, not just electoral politics, but all of these other ways in which we need to fight. And the biggest thing that's standing in the way of that is the racial inequality that's built into the system to create a structure in which European American working people think they have something to lose by working with other working people.
Right. Well, there's really three components of a system that will actually work well for everybody. It's basically our investments, our basic public investments, and that's in education, health, research, infrastructure, and all that. That creates the necessary conditions for people to thrive, but also for businesses to exist and in our economy to prosper. The second part is valuing all workers, no matter race, religion, sex, or whatever. We value all workers, and that's basically raising the minimum wage to a livable wage. That's equal pay for equal work, and that's workers' rights. And the third component is a fair system. If you don't have fairness in the system, then the money does go to the top. And the country was created on the concept of fairness. So we haven't lived up to that, and we've kind of strived toward that. It wasn't until the late 1800s and then beyond before we really had, free public basic education. 90% of our population was in poverty before that. And until we started making these investments, and yes, it's still not, not equitable and so on, but it used to be far, far, far worse. So we've made some good strides. Now, I think progressives have the opportunity of selling these messages and having that corollary, counter argument to the Republicans, that's high-level message that we just have to get government out of the way. The government can't do anything right, and we have to give more money to the job creators or the rich. We have to have that counter argument and those things actually, if you don't get down into the minutia there. It seems to make sense. So a lot of people that don't follow it, they don't really understand macroeconomics and so on. This, they're gonna vote for that, because it does seem to make sense. Especially when Democrats, we just say, well, we're gonna educate people, and we're gonna give education and healthcare and all of that, and then the Republicans say, oh, it's just socialism and stuff. So. And nobody really wants. Socialism. Let's remind people what that is. That's government control of everything. That's nationalizing our industries. That's taking your businesses and property. Democrats are not socialists. Come on, let's get that behind us. They believe that people should have their own businesses and all of that, and they're not trying to nationalize. They would like to eliminate one industry, and that's the insurance industry for healthcare, because this is basically just not needed. We can get rid of all of those dollars that are not doing us any good and put them into actual healthcare, and then we can basically get everybody healthy, or access to healthcare, and we can cover vision and hearing and so on, and we can have better outcomes like Europe and other places. We can make all these improvements by getting rid of that industry, but the other industries, we're not trying to nationalize them. So we're not.
Well,
the Democrats or Republicans need to stop lying, and saying that Democrats, because that's what basically lost a lot of seats, a lot of progressive seats. We got called socialists, and that the Democrats are just going to tax the hell out of you and all that. And those are not true. That's what's true is that we're going to invest. Investments have returns, and when we invest in people's education, that has returns. And if we take the Senate, if we win your two House, your Senate races, or you run, the Democrats in Georgia, that's going to make a huge difference on how many of these policies come a lot closer to what progressives want to do, and at least progressives will have a seat at the table. If we gridlock Biden or kind of hamstring Biden by not having a Senate that and McConnell there in charge, that's going to then a lot less of what progressives want to get accomplished will get accomplished.
Well, the Carl, the part of the problem I see with this issue is that there was a period, in at the end of the 19th century when the concentration of wealth was at the highest that it was ever in the United States. There were a whole series of reform processes that went on that left out most African Americans from the reforms and the social safety net that was created. All of the things that you were talking about, and because of that fatal flaw, I look at the New Deal under FDR during the Great Depression. Because of that fatal flaw, the concentration of wealth began again with the appeals that you were talking about to European American workers. And we are now in the worst place in terms of the concentration of wealth than we were at the beginning of the 20th century. So there is a component, a power component here that that I think is really critical to investigate and to address. And that power component has to do with the internal war of working people, a race war that's going on. Now, another point about that is that a lot of that concentration of wealth is inherent. It's built into the system. All right. So if you just let capitalism operate without any regulation, without any redistribution of wealth, it's going to concentrate wealth, because that's the nature of the exploitation.
Well, and especially a rigged system will concentrate wealth, and
Well,
we can get rid. And if we also if we can get Republicans out of control here. I mean, just between 1968 and today, if we had just kept minimum wage, just with inflation, it'd be about $12 an hour. If we, the prosperity of the country tripled in that same period. If workers had benefited from both factors, then the minimum wage would be about $36 an hour. Certainly a livable, wage. It's not slave labor, or just a, economic, just where, you're talking about they don't have really choices. They can't invest in themselves. They can't go get that education, or that, they just don't have opportunities because they're just barely making it hand to mouth. And unless we can turn these around, and this is not.
They want us to be dependent, fearful, and forced into the factories or into the service industry. Carl, that's the way this system works. All right. They want to terrorize us. All right. If they don't terrorize us, we're not going to work for them. We're going to find another way.
There's plenty of business people that understand that they need their workers.
But they don't run this.
Hold on. Basically, there are some, and especially on the Republican side, they're basically voting for those kinds of things that create that kind of power, in the few. But the Democrats, over long periods of time, have voted against those kinds of policies. They've been trying to raise the minimum wage. They basically they vote for workers' rights. They vote for fair, or equal pay for equal work, and so on. So the Democrats have been working to, we need to get this, the blame where it needs to be, where who's earned that blame, who is held back, raising wages and stuff, who is held back the equal rights amendments, and who is held back, the things that would have made us, the kind of country that you're really looking for, where race doesn't matter, that it's a person's character, they're everybody, we don't have, we shouldn't have, what is it, a 10 or 12% poverty rate? That's still ridiculous. We need to drive that down to zero. Anybody, basically, poor people hurt all of us, and allowing poverty to continue hurts all of us, and so this is, it's certainly a race problem. There's certainly a strong history in that, but all poor people, we need to basically eliminate poverty. and we could do that by basically it's by investing in what people need to thrive. It's investing what our businesses need to thrive, and then we have we're tremendously capable and innovative country. People will do.
Capitalists don't compete; they conspire.
Well, have you even looked at what? Have you looked at what there's a whole movement toward? Do you know anything about B corporations, benefit corporations? They're trying to basically get where the laws are, right now are such that, that directors of corporations have a fiduciary responsibility to maximize profit at the expense, of their community, of their employees, of their customers. Yeah. That's basically part of the system that has to, and it's like 40, 50 years ago,
costs, Carl. It's called externalizing costs, and that's doing. These fossil fuel companies.
Look at B corporations, and we could. These corporations don't even exist, without our ability or without government regulations and stuff. So we can change the rules in which they, they operate. And now 40 to 50 years ago, corporations
and the big food producers who are poisoning us, who are destroying the climate, and
we got to get them out of these industries, out of the FDA, because they're giving us bad advice on what we should be eating and all of that. So there's a lot of things through the system.
They have billions of dollars that they've thrown into maintaining the system the way it is.
Right. And we got to get money out of it.
I agree with you, Carl. Most of what you're saying, I agree with, but there's no way to implement it unless you have a counter force.
There is already a counter force. And that is called the Democratic Party. Yeah, the Democratic Party will go a long way. Yeah, it is. And there's, if you look at
what Obama did during his 8 years in office.
Yeah, B corporations. Benefit corporations, they have to take in mind all of their stakeholders. Their shareholders, not only that, but also
all the stakeholders. I want to get those people the hell out of the running the system. I mean, it's. I agree with you a lot. The logic of what you're saying is something that I agree with.
Well, look at the enlightened capitalism movement, and there's all B corporations. They'll take it requires companies to be a B Corp to take in consideration their employees,
how are you going
the environment.
To get that? You need to force that on these.
Well, there's a number, there's a couple of camps within the B corporation movement.
Facebook to remove.
A lot of these companies are going that direction on their own. Now we can pick up the pace. We could require all medical industry.
How much of that is advertising? How much of that is? So
there's real teeth. So look up. So
they're saying, "Oh, we're going green."
So go look at. There's real teeth in this stuff. Go look at look up B Labs and B corporations, and so get more informed on the kinds of things that are going on, which will help correct
corporations now, Carl. How many are there? What percentage of the growth?
I don't know what the percentage is, but it's something that it's
minuscule.
There's some pretty large, B corporations, Whole Foods, and other kinds of companies, and all that.
That's a tiny portion.
Well, but everything is tiny. Like when President Trump said there's only 15 cases, well, COVID was tiny here. Well, guess what? A lot of these things can explode, if we give them the right conditions. And here, we want to have the right conditions. We get more Democrats elected, then we will. If we allow Trump and Trumpism and even just the general, the GOP to maintain control, we're not going to have even a seat at the table. They reduce the seat at the table here. We got to have a seat at the table, and we have to sell our ideas, and then we get, then that gives the Democrats cover, you know, if they think that if they support some, you know, idea like, you know, college education for, you know, free college education, or, you know, healthcare for, you know, universal healthcare and all that. If they think that they're going to get voted out, you know, then the politician says, okay, well, I can't do that because I don't even have a seat at the table then, you know, to be able to make any kind of difference, whether it's fast as I want or slow. But if we give them cover, if we make these things,
a 60-seat majority in the Senate in the first 2 years that he was that he was president, a 60-seat majority, and he could not get a Medicare for all. He shut down the people who were proposing Medicare for all.
Right. He was actually trying to do something where, you know, where he could get that and plus everything.
This was. I mean, we have like that with the Biden victory. We have nothing like the kind of sweep that the Democrats did in 2008 and had this control of the Senate and the House and the presidency in 2009, 2010. What happened was they bailed out the banks.
He did not have 60 seats. He did not have the supermajority. So he did not have 60 seats. He had less than that. I don't believe he actually had that, because he was being filled.
As much as I'm enjoying the two of you, we are at the top of the hour.
Well,
Carl, thank you for joining us on this week's broadcast. You know, somebody put a comment up. I'm gonna put it up. He says it's great when, I know he's talking about two white men are debating. So yeah,
that's you and him.
I think everybody.
Hey, great. With all due respect, Carl. I mean, with all respect, you are. As I say, I'm really with you on a lot of the logic and everything. I just think that there's there's a much more intense struggle that's going to take place. I want to see a public option for all insurance, not just for not just Medicare for all. Then we'd start to really beat back the insurance companies.
Well, I think you have to go to, there's a budget group.
For car insurance, there should be a public option for all insurance. Mm-hmm. And we'd see how the profit system works. There's also just manufacturing. You know, manufacturing does not make a profit. The only way the manufacturing makes a profit in the world is through government subsidies. I've just been read a book by Louis Uchitel about this called Making It. There is no manufacturing that's done in the entire world that does not rely on government subsidies. And in this country, all of the subsidies are indirect. They're tax breaks as opposed to supporting workers' wages and doing all of that other stuff. That's how they rig the system. And we're at the top of the hour. Stay there. I'll see you guys next week. Carl, thank you for joining us. You know, you're always a friend to this broadcast. Thank you, Luann. She's always a friend to this broadcast. Come back. We're going to keep it. This was great today. David, you can find David at Acknowledge the Divide right here on Facebook. And I am Tamara Johnson Shealey. You can find me at tamara4georgia.com. So thank you, everybody. Have a great week.
Take care.
Thank you. Solidarity forever means privileges never.
All right.